The galaxy was quiet when the first sound came. A strange broadcast cut through the endless dark of space. It was not in the usual tones of the great empires, not in the proud dialects of the High Council. It was old, raw, human. The voice was steady, strong, and carried across every listening station. "You wanted war," the voice said. "Heavy like iron. Now face what comes next." Across the star systems, aliens froze in silence. Engineers stared at blinking screens. Soldiers stopped mid-step. Commanders frowned, leaning closer to listen. Many of them laughed at first. Humans. The word itself had become a joke in the council chambers. To most species, Earth was nothing but a forgotten myth. A broken rock where a violent species had once lived and then burned itself into ashes. The archives told of human wars, endless, brutal, without mercy. But those were stories from ages past. Humanity, they believed, had destroyed itself long ago. Yet the signal was real. It carried the unmistakable code of Earth. It was no ordinary message. It was laced with strange pulses, coded warnings that none could decipher. Some officers thought it was just noise, a ghost transmission. Others warned that it might be a trap. Still, the arrogance of the council drowned out caution. The fleet marshals scoffed. If humans survived, where have they been hiding? What power could a dead world hold? The broadcast repeated over and over, reaching every relay, every corner of the galactic network. There was no way to stop it. The words crawled under the skin of those who listened. The tone was not a plea. It was not fear. It was a warning. And warnings from humans were never empty. High above the concordant spire, the great council gathered. Alien voices filled the chamber. The Ilari, tall and radiant, called the signal pathetic. The Velen, armored giants with deep voices, demanded immediate war. The Quor, thin and insectoid, hissed about caution, but their words were ignored. Pride filled the air. They remembered humans as reckless, desperate, and doomed. No fleet, no empire, no allies. Just rage and chaos. Surely, even if some remnant still lived, they could be crushed in a single strike. And so the decision was made. The fleets would move. Armadas of silver and steel, hundreds of warships, would travel to Earth and silence the broadcast at its source. The Council declared it would be a display of power, a reminder to all lesser species that no one defied the order of the galaxy. As the warships prepared for launch, the broadcast continued. The human voice never wavered. "You wanted war? Now brace yourself for what follows." Simple words, yet they cut deep. Pilots joked to one another, laughing to ease their unease. Soldiers spoke boldly about glory and conquest. But in the shadows of their minds, a single question grew louder. If humans were truly gone, then who was speaking now? The first fleet approached Sol, the human star system. They expected silence, ruins, and dust. What they found instead unsettled them. Earth hung below, scarred and battered, its surface marked by great wounds. Oceans still glistened, clouds still swirled, but cities were broken. From orbit it looked like a tomb. Some commanders smirked. This is what speaks to us? A corpse world. But then came the readings. Deep beneath the crust, strange energy surged. Sensors picked up massive activity under the planet's surface. Entire caverns hummed with power, like great machines waking from a long sleep. The alien ships adjusted their scans. Numbers spiked in ways they could not explain. The planet was not quiet. It was alive with secrets. The alien fleet commander gave the order to fire a warning barrage. Brilliant beams cut through the sky, explosions marking the surface of the Earth. Fire and smoke rose from impact zones. For a moment, the fleet roared with triumph. But then the ground shook. Mountains split open. Oceans boiled with sudden heat. And from the cracks of the world, lights began to rise. The first forms appeared as shadows against the planet's glow. Vast doors opened in the crust, old bunkers the size of cities. From within them, shapes lifted slowly, massive and silent at first. They were ships, human ships. Black as void, plated in armor that shimmered like liquid metal. One after another they rose, engines burning bright blue, lifting into orbit. Alien crews panicked. Alarms filled their bridges. Some shouted for retreat. Others cried that the sensors were lying, that these were old ruins. But the ships kept rising. Dozens, then hundreds, emerging from every corner of Earth. Their designs were unlike anything in the archives. These were not the fragile fleets of humanity's past. They were colossal, brutal machines of war. Their hulls bore scars as if they had already survived 1,000 battles. Then came the second part of the broadcast. It was not a single voice now. It was many. Cold, mechanical, yet unmistakably human. Earth endures. The signal was your warning. The words struck like thunder. The alien fleets, proud and certain just moments ago, now hesitated in fear. Their weapons locked, but their hands trembled. The human fleet spread across the sky, blocking the stars, their dark silhouettes vast and endless. And as the alien commanders stared, they realized the terrible truth. The humans had never been destroyed. They had been waiting under the bones of their own world, building in silence, watching the galaxy forget them. The alien commander tried to speak, but his words failed. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's rulers felt small. The humans had returned, not as survivors begging for mercy, but as executioners. And still, the broadcast played, echoing through every channel, every ship, every mind. You wanted war? Now face what comes next. The galaxy held its breath, and Earth finally answered. The alien armada drifted in low orbit above Earth. The once proud fleet now strangely quiet. Their banners still flew on the great warships, their weapons glowed with energy, but unease crawled through every crew. The commanders barked orders with forced strength, hiding the tension in their voices. Soldiers stood ready at their stations, but their eyes flicked nervously to the displays showing the world below. Earth was no longer just a corpse. It was moving. It was alive. Beneath the cracked surface, enormous doors yawned open, each one the size of a city. Deep tunnels glowed with light as machines roared awake after centuries of silence. Whole mountain ranges shook as titanic panels slid apart, revealing black steel hangars that stretched into the planet's heart. Dust, ash, and smoke spilled into the atmosphere. Carried upward by the power of something vast rising from within, the first human warship broke through the surface with a soundless fury. Its body gleamed with strange armor, its hull marked with the scars of ancient wars. Alien scanners failed to match the design to any known database. It was not the fragile technology they remembered from the old human wars. It was sharper, stronger, heavier. A vessel built not to explore, not to defend, but to annihilate. One ship became two became 10. Then the sky itself seemed to fracture as dozens of vessels lifted into orbit. Engines roared, blue fire cutting through the atmosphere. They moved in perfect formation, silent and coordinated. As though they had been waiting for this moment, the alien fleet adjusted positions, weapons locked. The commander of the lead vessel barked into the comms. Form attack wings. Destroy them before they gain altitude. The order spread across the armada and alien warships swarmed forward. Beams of energy lit the darkness, streaking toward the human ships. But when the blast struck, the result was terrifying. Shields absorbed the energy like ripples in water. Missiles disintegrated against armor that seemed alive, shifting and hardening under impact. The human ships did not even flinch. They advanced, silent, unbroken, rising higher into the black. On the alien bridges, panic spread. Officers shouted conflicting reports. One stammered that their readings made no sense. The human vessels carried power cores larger than entire alien cities. Another cried that their weapons had no measurable effect. The commander roared for silence, trying to steady his troops, but the fear in their eyes betrayed them. Then came the voice again. Not from one ship, but from all of them. A cold, unified chorus, filling every frequency. Earth endures. You should have listened to the signal. The words shook the crews to their bones. Some aliens covered their ears as if the sound itself was unbearable. Others stared at their displays, unable to look away as more ships emerged from the depths. Entire fleets rose from beneath oceans, their hulls dripping with steam and salt water. Vast carriers, the size of floating continents, ascended from the seas. Shaking off centuries of silence, the planet's poles ignited with energy as colossal defense arrays came alive. Satellites hidden in orbit for generations blinked into existence, shimmering as cloaking fields dropped. Each satellite unfolded like a flower of steel, revealing long barrels and vast lenses that burned with stored power. The alien fleets wavered. Pride had brought them here, but pride was fading fast. Soldiers whispered the word humans with trembling voices, like speaking of ghosts that should have remained buried. One officer begged the commander to retreat, but his plea was silenced with a strike of the commander's fist. "They cannot outmatch us," he declared, though his voice cracked with doubt. The human fleet continued to rise, filling the void of space with dark shapes. Their engines lit the skies of Earth like new suns. And as they turned their bows toward the alien ships, the silence of the moment was worse than any battle cry. The aliens had come to crush a corpse world. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. The last thing the alien crews saw before the first human volleys lit up the heavens was the Earth itself glowing beneath them, as if the planet was alive, as if it had been waiting for this war all along. The void of space trembled with the silence before the storm. Alien ships hung in tense formation, weapons primed, their commanders glaring at the black silhouettes rising from Earth. The human fleet spread like shadows across the stars. Vast in number, precise in movement, they did not shout, they did not threaten, they simply advanced, cold and unyielding. The alien flagship's bridge was filled with the crackle of coms, the hiss of static, and the sharp voices of officers calling out sensor readings. "Power signatures off the scale," one cried. Another added, "Their weapons. Unknown configuration. No match in archives." The commander's jaw clenched as he barked back. "They are only relics. Fire at will." The order carried, and the alien fleet unleashed its fury. Bright beams split the darkness, energy bolts streaking like fire across the void. Torpedoes and plasma lances tore through the black toward the human ships. Explosions blossomed across the battlefield, fierce and blinding. For a moment, the aliens roared with triumph, till the light faded. The human vessels emerged unscathed. Armor plates shimmered with a strange glow, bending energy aside like rain sliding off stone. Missiles struck and broke apart as if colliding with solid mountains. The ancient warships pressed forward, unharmed, their engines flaring brighter. Fear spread through the alien crews like a sickness. Then, the humans answered. The first salvo came without warning. Vast cannons hidden in their hulls unleashed lances of blue-white plasma, ripping through the nearest alien cruiser. The ship split apart in a shower of molten debris, its wreckage scattering like sparks across the void. Another beam cut clean through two destroyers in a single strike. Leaving only silence where once there had been defiance, the alien commander gripped his armrest, so tightly his claws dug into the metal. "Regroup. Form defensive lines." He roared, but his voice carried little strength. His officers stared at the displays in horror as human volleys cut through their fleet like blades through paper. Every blast was precise, merciless. Across the fleet, panic grew. Soldiers who once mocked humanity now trembled at the name. For centuries, humans had been dismissed as myths, as ashes, as nothing. But the ashes had not died. They had waited. The coms crackled again. But this time, it was not alien voices. It was human. It was cold, mechanical, yet heavy with power. "You fired first. You wanted war? Now you face humanity's answer." The words struck deeper than the weapons. Crews whispered in disbelief. The galaxy had thought humanity burned away, but here they were. Not as survivors clinging to scraps, but as conquerors rising from ruin. Alien ships tried to retreat, engines burning hard as they pulled away from Earth. But humanity had planned for that too. From the shadows of the planet, hidden satellites uncloaked, their long barrels glowing with deadly energy. In unison, they fired. Brilliant beams sliced through the fleeing vessels, cutting them down before they could escape. The void filled with wreckage, burning, drifting, silent. The alien commander's heart pounded in his chest. Every instinct screamed to run, but pride chained him in place. He turned to his crew with desperation hidden under steel. "They cannot sustain this forever," he said. "They are only a remnant." But even as he spoke, more signals appeared on their scanners. From the oceans of Earth, enormous carriers continued to rise. From the poles, ancient weapons pulsed with power. From deep orbit, satellites unfolded like a web of fire. Humanity was not a remnant. Humanity was endless. The human fleet moved closer, their vast shadows blotting out stars. No cheers, no celebration, no arrogance. Just the quiet, deadly certainty of a species that had been underestimated one time too many. The commanders. The voice faltered as he whispered words only his crew could hear. "What have we awoken?" And above the trembling earth, the humans prepared their next strike. The dead world was dead, no longer it was breathing war. The battlefield above Earth was now a graveyard of fire. Alien ships drifted in broken silence, their burning holes scattering across the void. The survivors regrouped, trying to form new lines, but every attempt was shattered by the rising storm of humanity's fleet. What had begun as arrogance was now fear, raw and heavy. Spreading through every crew, on the alien flagship, officers shouted frantic reports. Shields failing. Hull breaches on sectors 3 through 6. Enemy weapons cannot be tracked. The commander slammed his claws against the console, his voice shaking with fury. How can they wield such power? These ships should not exist. Yet existence was undeniable. Across the black, humanity revealed weapon after weapon, each more terrifying than the last. Vast rail cannons hidden within Earth's mountains roared, their slugs the size of towers tearing through space with unstoppable force. Alien cruisers vanished in brilliant flashes as molten wreckage spiraled into orbit. Oceans lit with fire as enormous missile silos launched waves of warheads that streaked upward. Guiding themselves with precision, no alien system could match, and then the skies above Earth opened wider. Satellites cloaked in silence for centuries, decloaked hundreds of them, a web of steel glimmering with death, each one pulsed with beams of plasma, coordinated like a living machine. Alien fleets tried to dodge, to weave between the fire, but the beams followed, striking with merciless accuracy. The alien crews broke into chaos. "We cannot match this," one officer cried. Another hissed. "It is like they knew we would come." And in truth, that was the most terrifying thought of all. The humans had not only prepared for defense, they had prepared for this very war, as if waiting through the centuries for the galaxy to finally test them. From the depths of orbit, a single human dreadnought advanced. Its hull black and scarred, its size dwarfing even the largest alien flagship. It moved slowly, not from weakness, but from weight, a beast too massive for haste. Its weapons glowed, with energy, each cannon humming like a storm about to break. The alien fleets froze at the sight of it, and whispers spread, "The last guardian." Humanity's heart of war. Then the human voices returned, calm and merciless. Earth does not fall. Earth remembers. Earth answers. With that, the dreadnought fired. A single beam erupted from its cannon, cutting through the void like the blade of a god. It tore directly through the alien commander's nearest escort ships, splitting them clean in half. Entire crews were silenced in the blink of an eye, their screams lost in the vacuum of space. The alien commander gripped his seat, his pride collapsing into dread. He had come expecting ruins and laughter. Now he saw the truth. Humanity had never been extinct. They had been patient. They had been watching. They had been building an arsenal not for survival, but for vengeance. Across the alien empire, transmissions from the battlefield spread like wildfire. Civilians, soldiers, and rulers alike heard the broadcasts, saw the wreckage, felt the rising fear. It mocked humanity, had called them reckless savages, had written them into the pages of history as failures. But the failures had risen again. The savages had become something far worse, and as another volley from Earth's hidden weapons ripped apart another section of the alien armada, the galaxy understood. This was no desperate defense. This was judgment. The alien commander stared at the displays, his voice hollow, broken at last. We should never have answered that signal. But it was too late. Humanity's arsenal was awake, and nothing could stop it now. The black ocean of space burned with wreckage. Where once an armada had stretched proudly above Earth, now only fragments drifted, glowing metal, broken hulls, and shattered pride. Yet still the humans pressed forward. Their warships advanced in silence, a wall of steel and fire, and the alien survivors felt their courage slip away like air in a leaking hull. On the alien flagship, the commander sat frozen, his claws trembling on the armrest. His officers' voices overlapped in panic. The 3 destroyers lost in the last volley. Enemy fleet advancing. No damage sustained. Our reserves are gone. We cannot hold them. Commander roared for silence, but the sound carried no strength. His fleet was breaking, and so was he. Then the human broadcast returned. This time it was no longer just a voice. It was a storm. Every frequency, every channel, every ship in the alien empire heard it. You called for war, the voices said. In unison, cold and sharp as blades, and now you face humanity's wrath. Across the galaxy, billions of alien civilians froze as the words reached them. Workers in distant stations dropped their tools. Children asked their parents what the voice meant. Rulers in shining capitals sat in silence, watching as reports streamed in. The humans were not myths. They were not ashes. They were fire, alive again, and they carried fury that no one could escape. Above Earth, the human fleet unleashed its full fury. Waves of plasma fire lit the dark, shredding alien vessels in brilliant arcs. Rail slugs tore through flagships as if they were paper. Missiles streaked like falling stars, weaving between defenses and detonating with the force of collapsing suns. One alien cruiser after another fell, each one silenced without mercy. The alien crews tried to fight back, but every volley failed. Their beams scattered against human armor. Their torpedoes broke on shields that bent reality itself. Their formations shattered, and soon their proud armada became nothing more than prey. Fear spread faster than battle. Soldiers whispered to one another, their voices cracking with dread. They are not just surviving. They are hunting us. Some abandoned their posts, running from stations as though distance could save them. Others begged their commanders for retreat, but retreat was no longer an option. Humanity's web of satellites blocked every path, cutting off escape. The alien commander felt his chest tighten as he watched another of his escorts vanish in flame. His officers no longer waited for his orders, they cried openly, desperation breaking their discipline. He wanted to deny it, to claim humans were still weak, still doomed. But the truth filled every screen, every sensor, every shadow of the battlefield. Humans had become something else, something more. The broadcast came again, slower this time, heavier, as if the words themselves carried the weight of judgment. This is the price of your arrogance. You thought us broken? You thought us gone? But we remember. The alien commander shut his eyes, but he could not block out the sound. None of them could. It was everywhere, wrapping the galaxy in dread. For the first time in centuries, the rulers of the stars felt what lesser species had felt before them. Terror. The human fleet pressed closer, their colossal dreadnought leading the charge, its cannon glowing like the heart of a star. Every alien ship in its path fell silent, consumed by beams of pure destruction. Each strike was precise, measured, merciless, and as the void filled with fire, Galaxy understood. This was not a war for conquest. This was not a war for survival. This was humanity's wrath. Unleashed after centuries of silence, the alien commander whispered to himself, words meant for no one else. We should never have come here. But Earth had heard their challenge. And Earth was answering. The battle above Earth had become a storm without end. The alien armada, once proud and endless, was now broken into fragments, each ship scattered and burning. Their formations were gone, their courage shattered. What had begun as a campaign of conquest had twisted into something unthinkable in execution. On the alien flagship, despair spread like fire. Officers shouted reports through trembling voices. 70% of our fleet is gone. Shields collapsing. We cannot hold against them. Their commander tried to keep his tone steady, but every word cracked under the weight of truth. The aliens were not fighting an enemy, they were facing judgment. Across the void, the human fleet advanced, precise and relentless. They did not rush. They did not shout. Their ships moved with cold certainty, cutting down alien vessels one after another. Each strike was merciless, each volley designed not just to destroy, but to demonstrate. The humans wanted the galaxy to see. Whispers filled the alien ships. Why didn't the archives warn us? How could they hide this? Another voice broke. They are not survivors. They are predators. Pride, once their armor had rotted away into terror. Soldiers who once mocked the humans now begged their commanders to retreat. But retreat was impossible. The humans had closed the net. And then, from the depths of the Pacific Ocean, the water began to boil. Waves rose higher than mountains as something vast pushed upward, parting the sea as though the planet itself was opening. The alien sensors screamed with readings that made no sense. Tremors shook even the orbiting fleets. Then, breaking through the ocean with the force of a continent, a ship emerged. It was larger than anything the aliens had ever seen. Its hull stretched for kilometers, a fortress of steel and fire. Great towers rose from its back, glowing with energy older than their empire. The water crashed away as engines ignited, lifting the behemoth into the sky. The oceans roared as though Earth itself was giving birth to vengeance. The aliens stared in silence, and a name spread among them in trembling whispers. The Last Guardian. Humanity's final creation? A warship not meant for battle, but for reckoning. As the massive ship rose into orbit, it cast a shadow across the fleets, blotting out the stars. Its weapons hummed like a storm contained in steel, its power fields glowing with light too fierce to look at. Alien commanders froze, their minds breaking under the weight of realization. If this was only one ship, what else did Earth still hold? The human broadcast returned, deeper now, carried by the voice of the Guardian itself. You thought humanity dead? You thought Earth silent. But we are the storm you summoned. We are the reckoning you asked for. The alien commander dropped to his knees, his pride finally broken. Around him, officers stared at the screens in horror, some whispering prayers to gods who would not answer. The Guardian's main cannon began to charge, light gathering like the birth of a sun. The alien fleet tried to scatter, desperate engines burning as they fled in every direction. But it was too late. The Guardian fired. A beam of energy tore through space, a line of pure white fire that split the heavens. Entire enemy squadrons vanished in an instant, consumed and erased. The shockwave rippled across the void, shaking even the human ships. The wreckage of alien pride drifted silently, glowing embers against the dark. The galaxy watched in silence. From distant stations to faraway worlds, every eye turned to the message that carried through space. Humanity had risen, not as victims, not as survivors, but as executioners. And above the trembling earth, the Guardian spread its wings of steel and flame. As if declaring to the stars themselves, humanity had returned, and no empire would ever forget it. The void above Earth had fallen silent. Where once thousands of alien warships filled the sky, now only wreckage drifted, glowing fragments scattered across the dark. Fires burned on shattered hulls. Broken banners floated among the ruins. The great armada that had come to conquer was gone, erased in hours by the fury of a world they had thought extinct. The human fleet held its formation, black silhouettes against the stars. Their engines glowed softly, their weapons dimmed, but none lowered their guard. They did not celebrate. They did not cheer. They stood in silence, like judges at the end of a trial. The last guardian loomed at the center, its colossal frame casting a shadow across the planet below. On the alien flagship, the last two survived. Silence filled the bridge. Officers sat slumped in despair, their hands trembling, their eyes hollow. The commander, once proud, stared at the wreckage of his fleet. His voice, when it came, was little more than a whisper. We were wrong. We should never have answered that signal," no one replied. No one could. Pride had died with their empire in the flames above Earth. Then the broadcast came one final time. Not a scream, not a threat, but a cold truth. "We are humanity. We endured your silence. We endured your mockery. We endured your war. Remember our signal. It will not be the last," are the words rolled out across every channel, carried far beyond Earth's orbit. They spread through relays and stations, through colonies and capitals, reaching the farthest corners of the galaxy. Every species heard them. Civilians huddled in fear. Leaders sat frozen in silence. Soldiers stared at the sky, knowing they had just witnessed something impossible. For centuries, humanity had been forgotten, written off as dust and myth. But now the truth could not be hidden. Humanity was not gone. Humanity had returned, and humanity carried power and patience no empire could match. The alien survivors turned their ships away from Earth, retreating into the darkness. None dared to speak of victory. None dared to speak of revenge. They carried only fear, only the memory of fire and the voice that still echoed in their ears below. Earth itself seemed to breathe again. Oceans stilled after the Guardian's rise. The planet's scars glowed faintly with the energy of ancient machines now awake. From orbit, it did not look like a dead world anymore. It looked alive, vast, and waiting. As the last alien ships fled into the black, silence returned. Not peace, but silence, the kind that comes after a storm. When the air is heavy with smoke and the ground is littered with ash, the human fleet turned slowly, returning to formation, their ships still gleaming with the light of battle. The Guardian lowered its weapons, but its engines still roared with steady, endless power. The galaxy trembled that night. For the first time in living memory, the rulers of the stars felt true fear. They had called for war. They had mocked the last broadcast of Earth. And now they understood. Humanity was not a myth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was a storm, waiting in silence, and when provoked, would not stop until all was ashes. And so the stars carried the final truth. The last human signal was not a plea. It was not a warning. It was a promise.